Ladies and gentlemen, inductee Henry Melton Lecroy.
1950. The big name being made in football at Marshall County High School was Melton Lecroy. He was Chorley's first All-American. This team wasn't scored on until the third game of the season. Once again, the only loss was to the Albertville Aggies, 40-19, after leading in the first quarter, 12-0. The team scored 206 points, gave up 84. The 1950 record was 7 wins, 1 loss, and 2 ties. 1951. This was an outstanding Wildcat team, led by Melton Lecroy and 4 other returning starters. They opened with a 52-13 thumping of Bluntsville, defeated an undefeated Arab team 19-6 before an estimated 4,000 fans. Aniana ruined a perfect season by defeating the Wildcats 20-13. The Aggies fell 26-6 Thanksgiving Day. The 1951 team scored 252 points, giving up only 64 to opponents.
Melton Lecroy was a halfback 1948 through 51 for the Wildcats, and during this 4-year period, the Wildcats lost only 5 games while setting attendance records like 5,500 at the 1948 Albertville game, 5,200 at the 1950 Albertville game, 4,000 at the 1951 Arab game, and 7,000 when Guntersville traveled up on Sand Mountain to play the Albertville Aggies in the 1951 Albertville homecoming game. J.B. Davis had this to say about Melton Lecroy.
Melton, I've never told you this. I played against a lot of guys in college, but you're the greatest halfback I've ever seen.
Melton describes Coach Chorba's coaching before the big game with Albertville.
I'm old, but the whole week before we played out, Coach Chorba and Coach Lee had picked up that the guy coming down the left side of the line, when he got the 40-yard line, he stepped directly behind Charles Duckett. And all week long, we drilled on the kickoff. I'd come straight up the field, and they had a guy coming down, and when he got to the 40-yard line, he'd cut behind that tackle, and momentarily he was blind. He couldn't see where I was at. As scared as I was, that's all the time we needed. So I cut outside, and I scored. And it wasn't because of me, it's because they did a hell of a job of picking up little cues and things for us to key on.
Look at all the honors for Melton Lecroy, Marshall County High School 1948 through 51, 2-time first-team All-State, All-American team, football scholarship to the University of Georgia. The high school All-America honor was quite an accomplishment. This was one of the first high school All-America teams. In fact, Wigwam Wiseman of America was the originator of the National High School All-American All-Star football team. The most sought-after back in the state, Lecroy. His record proves why. 18 touchdowns his senior year, with only 2 being on less than 10-yard runs. He averaged 44.7 yards per touchdown gallop, and Coach Joe Chorba, former Alabama guard, usually pulled him out of easy games before halftime. A fair passer and kicker, a rugged type of a runner with plenty of courage, and headed to the University of Georgia. In the All-Star game, his teammates on the north included Jim Roberts of Albertville, Bobby Golden of Pell City. Bobby Golden would be a future coach of the Albertville Aggies. On the south squad, Nick Germanos of Sidney Lanier, Art Starr of Sidney Lanier, Albert Elmore of Troy, Jolton Joe Childers of Robertsdale, all big names in the future in college football. In the last 5 minutes of the last scheduled scrimmage, the 160-pound unanimous All-Stater sustained a broken leg. Lecroy, one of the most sought-after backs of the year, who had finally chosen Georgia, is out of football for the year. And later that summer, he injured the leg again, ending his football career. He is one of the finest running halfbacks I've ever seen, said the North head coach Ernie Teal of Gadsden. He has something you couldn't teach a kid. He is just a natural. His loss hurts us. Ladies and gentlemen, inductee Melton Lecroy.
Well, you know, I didn't get up here by myself. There was a lot of sweat, a bunch of little guys that didn't know that we wasn't supposed to lose. They got in the trench where the going got rough and dug and skints, meant nothing. They was there to win because we'd been taught that winners don't quit. And so half the ball games that we won, we wasn't even supposed to be in the ball game. But because we had the premier coaching in high school of Coach Lee and Coach Chober, and I can hear a little voice now saying, "You've finally done something right." And people used to say, "I bet you that Coach Chober and Coach Lee petted you constantly." They sure did. I was as afraid of that 4-foot plank as anybody you've ever seen in your life. I was a real easy kid to coach. I never did do nothing. And Coach Lee and Coach Chober burned a lot of midnight oil getting us ready for ball games on Friday night. Some of it was going over offense and defense, and some of it was out looking for me. Because I would hang out now, there wasn't no doubt about it. But I almost lied to the guys I played football with. I said I wouldn't trade the bunch of guys that I played with for any football players I've ever seen. But after looking at John Hanna, Frankie, and Travis, I almost lied. I still wouldn't. I'd let my teammates play one play, I'd jerk them out and put John in. And so anyway, you know, but I can really say that just like old Elvis said, I really had a ball. I'm one guy. I enjoyed football. I enjoyed life. I cut up. I have a thing about me. I just don't let things get me down. And I remember so many times of Coach Chober and Coach Lee pointing out little things. And I used to think to myself, how in the world can Coach Lee possibly come up with all the things that he does? And Frankie and Eugene, things for us to key on when we were JB members. They'd have keys for us to key on it. Coach Lee picked up and say, if he's going to run right, he'll put his right foot back 6 inches further than he does. He'll line up 6 inches deep. I think, who in the world cares about that? But, you know, it really amounted to a lot. And I was going to sing tonight, but...